Just like Peter Jackson's Two Towers, it's about a siege, so nothing really happened here.
What?
The only good thing I can find here is that this vision of the future is close to mine.
I mean...
When we don't have oil and energy anymore, world will come back to the Dark Ages, but with this time, the knowledge of technology.
What?
Okay, did ChatGPT write this ad?
That, misspellings and all, was from IMDb. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew and Steven.
Humongous.
And in this episode, we're reviewing George Miller's bombastic Mad Max sequel, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. First up, before we get into our thoughts or details, what would each of your names in the wasteland be?
Oh, why
Why would you do that?
Go with your gut. Don't think about it. What would your wasteland name be?
I need time to think
Steven,
about this.
what would your wasteland name be?
I just have to try to imagine Andrew in the proper attire. You know, chaps.
Hold on, no.
Straps.
Let's come up
Well,
with each other's wasteland name. So what would Andrew's name be, Steven? We got to come up with his name.
Oh, gosh.
Oh no!
What's that thing on your elbow? The weenus?
The weenus.
You would
The
be
weenus.
Wild Weenus.
Wild weenus. Ryan actually put some thought into this. He can
Okay.
Clearly he did.
Andrew, what would
he spent
Steve?
all night thinking about this.
All day racking my brain, like numbers on the wall.
Yeah, he just has like a little notebook of
He's
just nicknames.
drifting off at work because he's thinking about these things.
Andrew, what would Steven's name be?
I don't know.
Look at him.
You're putting me on the spot.
Imagine him with his butt hanging out of chaps. Well, he already wears that, but like in a post-apocalyptic setting.
Chungus Wungus.
Chungus Wungus is pretty good, actually.
Do I need to lose some weight?
I should be writing these down. What about me? Go ahead. Let loose.
No.
I have no name. I'm just... They call him... Ryan Blewett.
Ooh, I don't know, man. What would they call Ryan?
I don't know.
Video boy. Video boy, get over here.
Video boy. There's like no screens.
These are the worst names.
He tells tale of a time before.
Just the absolute worst.
Yeah, these are not going to track. No, these aren't t-shirt merch ideas.
You didn't give us any warning this was going to happen.
I didn't know I was going to do it. I just had a gut.
Don't lie.
This is what happens when civilization breaks down.
Yes, exactly. This is a
There
metaphor.
are rules, people. It's rules that keep us from being animals.
All right.
What do you think this is, Dom?
Before we get into some details and any more Vietnam
joggers.
references, let's run around and see what everybody thought about this movie. Andrew, what did you think about Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior?
This was so much fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. I love this movie, but just because I've seen it so much, like
This was
growing
my
up.
first time seeing it.
It was a long time since I've
That's
seen
crazy
it before.
to me.
Steven, what did you think about that?
It's been 3 decades, and it's still hilarious. It's such an insane film.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
But it's like 80s, like ultra kiss fun.
This film is such a time capsule of what the late 70s, early 80s thought a post-apocalyptic future would be.
Yes.
Just in general, everything
Well,
about
because
it.
that was before like there was really like a ton of push for fuel efficiency for cars and stuff.
They were
Well, yeah, the
just
gas crisis of
coming
the
out-
70s.
Yeah, they were just coming out of the oil
Yeah.
crisis. So everyone was like, "Oh man, oil! This is the big deal. This is what causes the world to collapse."
Yeah.
and at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like if you think about it, the movie The Warriors came out in like 79. That's about street gangs. Then Escape from New York and this came out in the same year. So like just street gangs taking over the world was just like...
That was also, well, I mean, gang violence was a big deal back then. You had, I mean, it's a much more violent place.
Yeah.
The other thing was that, and this is what like kind of like talks to how like in the zeitgeist this movie and other movies were. What's his name? The guy that plays not the humongous, Wes, the other main dude with the mohawk.
Oh, yeah, with the mohawk and the feathers. Yeah.
So he and I didn't put this together till I was looking up trivia. Is in Weird Science. Have you ever seen Weird Science,
No.
Andrew? The movie?
No.
Steven? No. Nothing. Man, it's classic. Gotta watch that. It's basically these kids get a computer and they invent their dream girl.
I know what Weird
and-
Science is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
For the
Yeah, I just never
listeners, I'm
seen the
trying to
movie,
like catch everybody up in case there's someone.
You're like, you know what that is, right? No.
Yeah. So Anyways, in the movie, they basically use their computer to make wishes.
Yeah.
Right. And one of them is they at some point wish like some kind of road gang into there. And the dude, Vernon Wells, who played Wes, reprises his role in the same outfit.
Oh,
he does
that's incredible.
The leader of this like gang of like apocalyptic like warriors that comes into the movie. And I was like, what? And I look at the screenshots and I was like, I always thought they just got somebody that looked like him.
Yeah.
And like, oh, okay, this is inspired by Mad Max too. No, it's the guy, and it's got the white on the face paint and everything.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, that's just
awesome.
a tiny minor thing. But
What are property IP rights?
I know exactly.
Well, when it's an homage, it's kind of hard to.
You can kind of it's a satire
away,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with a plot summary here. So, in the post-apocalyptic Australian wasteland, a cynical drifter agrees to help a small gasoline-rich community get rid of a horde of bandits.
Yeah, that is the film.
Yeah. This movie was released on December 24th, 1981 in Australia, and then it kind of had a staggered release around the world, ending, I think the last one was US. If not, it was close to it. That was in May of 82. So
Wow, that was a long
year.
lag time.
Yeah, so it was like it came out in Australia, and then it was like I think the UK, somewhere else, and then in the US it was like at a film festival first, and then got like a release.
Interesting.
Directed by George Miller, who directed the first Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the Babe movies, A Pig in the City. You may know those.
Wait, really?
Happy Feet, George Miller.
Yes.
And then Mad Max Fury Road. So he
That's
took
insane.
some time away from the wasteland to go
likes to
ultra
do whatever he
saccharine.
wants to do.
That's actually kind of crazy.
I don't know why. I would assume it's because he had kids, and then the kids were
Yeah,
like,
probably.
I need to make movies for my kids, and I don't want to.
His kids are like, Dad, we want to watch your films. Like, hold on. Give me a year and a half. Gonna call my agent.
Maybe Thunderdome. So yeah, this was written by George Miller, Terry Hayes, and Brian Hanant. And I looked up Terry Hayes and Brian Hanant. It's nothing that we would have heard of. Music by Brian May. Not the guitar player for Queen.
It's funny too. Whenever we saw that, because we just
Yeah.
watched the remaster 4K of their concert in Montreal that's on Disney Plus. Right now, it's a fantastic concert.
Yeah.
But it was funny. So we were like, I was looking up all the information on all the band members and stuff while we were watching it.
Yeah.
And I was like, Brian May, and then we watched Road Warrior. I'm like, Brian May.
There was no guitar harmonies in any of that. What are you talking about? Yeah. He did a couple of things, some George Miller stuff, Tales from the Crypt. He did a couple episodes of that. And then Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which is the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street movie. He's an Australian composer.
Gotcha, yeah.
Starring Mel Gibson, Bruce Spence, Michael Preston, and Vernon Wells, and then a bunch of extras and other people.
Man, Mel Gibson is so young in this.
Oh yeah, this is one of I think the first U.S. like movies he
Really?
because 82.
Mad Max, the original, he looks like that is him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a baby.
So in the original Mad
He all
Max,
stared at me. I was like, hold on.
I think the original came out in like 79 or 80 somewhere, probably 79 Australia, 80 here, but it got such a limited release here
That basically doesn't count.
Yeah, well, and that's why the producers in America, everywhere else it's called Mad Max 2. Here it's called Mad Max 2 The Road Warrior now, but when it released, it was called The Road Warrior because they were afraid no one had seen Mad Max.
And they wouldn't watch it because they were like, well, I haven't seen the first one.
I mean, you don't need to see the first one at all.
Well, they made sure of that.
Yeah. There's an entire exposition right at the beginning.
Right at the start.
Right,
It's like a Star Wars crawl, except it has moving pictures.
So the budget was, it is kind of like that. But
You make it sound like it's so infantile.
not only that, like it's a 1-to-1 that anyone would say. It's not. It's completely different.
George Miller is just like,
There's no
one
crawl.
wants to read.
Yeah, like
It doesn't crawl. It doesn't do any of that.
it just kind of sets up. Like every movie it sets up, it's just like the Star Wars crawl.
It's just a narrator.
There's no crawl or words.
It's a Star Wars crawl for baby. They tell it to you instead of making you read.
Yeah, make us read,
The
cowards.
Australians are like, these Americans, they can't read at a third grade level. I'll say it for them.
Yes. Oh wow. Anyways, the budget was $2 million Australian dollars, $4 million US dollars.
Hold on, what? How does that work?
Because at the time the exchange rate was like 2 million.
That's
it was
upside
like
down.
double.
That's not how this works.
That's what the internet said. So take it up with the internet.
And clearly the internet never lies.
4 million US is what I found for
Sure,
budget.
why not?
I mean,
box office was.
And that's totally a reasonable number. It's not. I'm not questioning.
So
that.
box office was weird, and I don't know if this is because
of the really long release schedule.
well, it's that, but it was like so the box office said 23.6 million total, right?
All right.
But then
respectable.
it said
Very.
rental 36.4 million.
Oh,
and I was like, is that counting?
Yeah, maybe that is just because like that was such a different thing.
I mean,
new
back in
thing
the
at the
day,
time.
like the rental revenue stream was real, man.
Well,
you
yeah, because
think
this was VHS was like what 75.
Yeah, but like people didn't have
VHS.
VCRs in their home.
Yeah, like
in a regular.
like in the 80s. That's
So,
when
like,
people started getting VCRs and that kind of stuff.
this
like,
would have been like early.
Yeah.
early like video rental stores would have been. Yeah, I would think.
And you got to remember, like it takes. The cycle back then was pretty long. Like it would take a while before it hit. So by the time it actually made it to where it could be rented, it's more widely viewable by people at home.
But the rental figure was calculated under worldwide, and so I was like, is there like a market that didn't get it theatrically but got it in a rental?
Or are they saying like it was 23 whatever million box office, and when you add rentals, it's 36 million.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
unclear.
That's murky, yeah.
Yeah, because then like that turns it from 36 million or like a 50 something.
Yeah, it was just like
million.
it's almost a $60 million production. Like I don't know.
But yeah, they made a lot of their money
great
back.
return on 4 million.
I mean, they made either way. If they made 23 million, great return on 4. If they made 36, great return. If they made 62, or a really good return.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Overall thoughts. So I want to talk to Andrew first because it's his first time seeing it. So what did you think about Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior?
There was a lot more assless chaps than I was expecting.
What were you?
Absolutely rampant. I mean, granted, when the apocalypse hits, right?
That's the first thing you grab.
You grab them because you know
Breathable.
You need good coverage on the inner thighs for riding motorcycles.
Yes.
And also, you
Yeah.
got to have some breathing because that leather just doesn't cut it.
It
doesn't,
does not breathe. There's 2 big breathe holes right there on the back.
So yeah, this was my first time seeing this movie. I've seen other Mad Max films, but just
Meaning
not this
Fury
one.
Road?
Just Fury Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've seen another Mad Max film. Not
Well,
other films.
I mean, that's it.
Well, that's important though because
Yeah.
like you had Mad Max 2, and then
now,
Thunderdome.
that's the thing. I'm familiar with parts of Thunderdome.
Yeah.
But I've never actually like watched the film.
Got it. So your experience with Mad Max is Fury Road and then now the Road
kind
Warrior.
of some cultural references.
Yeah,
before that,
I mean, there's
basically.
impossible to not know about like kind of like what Road Warrior is.
Right, yeah.
Just kind of as a general thing. And I really liked it. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
It
Yeah.
was definitely one of those where like once you frame your mind of like this is 1982.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of whatever they're gonna do is that's just the reality. It's like there's a kid with a boomerang that has a big knife on the end. That's cool.
There he is. Yeah.
Just a feral child.
So, fun story about the feral child. So, one of my summer jobs during college was I worked at this like little hut on the edge of a lake in my hometown, and I sold lake permits. Like, if
Yeah.
you want to put your boat in, you got to buy a lake permit. You want to go swimming, whatever.
Fishing permit.
Was this
whatever.
just a racket that you created, or is
This is just me. Yeah, no,
was this a
Six sticks
state-
in a counter.
yeah. Oh yeah, to get into Ryan Lake, you got to pay the fee, the toll. Yeah. No, I worked for a company that they maintained the lake. Anyways. And throughout the summer, we had all these people that would show up, and I'd work with like other people. And one day I was working with this.
You had a feral child that had a boomerang.
So I was working with this other girl, and we were sitting in the window. We had no electricity in this hut, by the way. So you're just listening to a
there.
battery-powered radio. You're reading books. You know,
Sweating to the oldies,
sweating.
baby.
Yeah. So we're in this concrete box out in the heat, and I look up, and this car pulls up, and it's a Trans Am. Right.
Okay.
But it is rusted out, and it's got like the engines coming through the hood.
Yeah.
And it's got like it looks like a Mad Max.
So this
vehicle.
guy was prepared for the apocalypse.
That's not the part. Like I hear it roll up, backfiring. I glance over it, whatever. We go back to talking about whatever we were talking about, and I look over, and a child has jumped out and is grabbing something out of the trash can, and he goes, "Ugh!" Like that right there. He has a mullet down to his like butt. He's probably 5.
Yeah.
The only thing he was missing was the furry outfit that this kid had.
Also,
He looked exactly.
He needed like the hawk glove with chainmail on the palm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he pulled this thing out of the trash as I looked over and he went, ugh, and made like a noise and then threw it down and went back. I could not stop cackling because in my head, I just immediately saw the kid from Mad Max throwing the boomerang. She has no clue why I'm laughing. I fall like off my stool. I'm like laying on the floor, like laughing because this Trans Am from the apocalypse just rolled up and the Mad Max kid jumped out. And then when I explained it, it was not funny.
Of course not.
Yeah, no,
She did not get the
slightest
humor
bit.
in it, but I found a lot of humor in it.
The one thing that I really thought was just really cool. Clearly there's 1982. There's no like CGI or anything like that. Everything that he did was just real.
Oh yeah.
Like, so now I do have a question.
Yeah.
There is a very large explosion at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Is that real or was that a miniature?
No, that is the biggest explosion at the time ever done on Australian film.
Oh, heck yeah.
Not a United States film.
Yeah.
But an Australian production that set a record for the largest explosion ever done.
Set it up, blow it up.
Also, it over in Sydney.
And this is crazy. The little set that they made, that was the biggest, most expensive set they had made for an Australian film at the time.
And then they blew it up.
And then they blew it up. And I'm like, that's incredible, George Miller, that this guy's just like, I tell you what.
I set one record, but what about two records?
What about 2 and 1? So the thing that I noticed this time upon rewatching it is that, like, I think this movie kind of has similar energy to like an 80s Jackie Chan movie.
Yes.
Where it's like,
yes,
absolutely. It's like, we're just doing our own stunts. We're just like,
it's very rough and ready.
Yeah, it's like, let's just do it ourselves. Get on a ladder and shoot this shot. And which
it felt very very not low budget in the sense of it didn't look good.
I mean,
but low budget.
Low budget.
George Miller didn't have the money. He was the camera guy.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
kind of type
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, we just built the most expensive set in the history of Australian film.
He had no money.
I have one camera, and don't mess this take up. We don't have much film today.
Yeah.
Well, and it feels too like a lot of the set pieces, kind of like in a Jackie Chan movie, where it's like we come up with the stunt first, and then like, okay, what's the plot reason that we got to this?
Yeah,
how do we end up here?
Yeah, like, I mean, like the plot of the film is whatever. It's just kind of it's set dressing for a big car chase.
Right. Yeah. And so a lot of the reviews when this movie first came out were like very positive. Like Roger Ebert loved it. What's his name? Gene Siskel. He did like a forward on the DVD of just like how influential this movie was and how like, great. But or not Gene Siskel. Not Siskel and Ebert. Who's the other? Gene Shalit. He did the thing, or like the forward or whatever. But the complaints of it was that it's just one big long chase. Yeah, that was the complaint. But it's really not.
But it's really not.
There's a lot of breaks in there.
There's a lot of breaks in there.
If you want the long chase, go to Fury Road.
That's Fury Road.
That's the long chase.
But I thought that was an interesting complaint at the time in 81, 82 when this came out, that like it's just one big chase scene. And I'm like,
we didn't have enough
really
people
not
sitting around talking to
like
each
you
other.
actually have a lot of like very specific plot contrivances to get like breaks in that.
Yeah. No, so for me, I like this movie a lot. I've watched it a lot throughout the years, and I like that the characters are quirky. You got the gyrocopter dude. You got Max.
I love the gyrocopter dude.
I loved methed out Ron Weasley. He's my favorite character.
I thought Bruce Spence did a great job. And then I don't know if you noticed it. Well, that's spoilers. We'll get to that.
Don't get to that.
It's a very old movie. Do we need a spoiler wall? We do.
Yeah,
probably.
We should.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought the plot itself is like, it's fine. Like it makes sense.
There are definitely some contrivances of
for sure.
Why are these people still arguing with each other? Like, what's wrong with you?
Oh yeah. Like you guys are in the middle of the apocalypse here. Like
that's just human nature, guys.
Just buck it up.
Right. Yeah.
Figure it out.
But yeah, I thought that the stunt work's great, and you can definitely, for me at least, see the genesis of like this. The DNA here carries over to Fury Road to a degree.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And like that's why I thought it'd be fun for us to review this one, is kind of just to see the proto version of like all that, because like the first Mad Max, I watched part of it ahead of this just to kind of like refresh myself a little. It's before the fall of man.
The first Mad Max is not technically post-apocalyptic.
No, it's pre-apocalyptic. So it's like right before the fall.
So here's a question. Just because this will probably come up in Fury Road as well, but like he had a wife and kids in the first movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So the first movie is basically there's these street gangs are running wild, right? And so they come up with this new police force of people that have like fast cars called interceptors. That like, or their whole point is to stop these street gangs, right? Like
they basically they're jousting street gangs and doing pit maneuvers on street gangs. It's kind of like nowhere, Australia.
You know how in RoboCop they're like, we need a robot cop to crack down on these gangs, and this one's like, we need fast cops in cars to stop these gangs. So then, like,
sign me up.
Yeah, in the first one, you know, it's more about that, and like society still exists. There's restaurants. Like,
he goes on vacation in the first film.
Again, it's before the fall, if you will, and that's why, like, I had seen The Road Warrior a lot, and I had never seen the original Mad Max till like maybe college, because it wasn't really as played on like HBO or cable.
See, it's weird because like I remember the first one really distinctly from my childhood.
Yeah.
I remember the third one. I think the third one's one I've seen the most. And then when this movie was playing, like stuff would happen, and I'd be like, okay, so I think this is about to. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, and and then I also be like, who the heck? What the? Wait, hold on. Where
did this kid come from?
Yeah, but it was a lot of. I really did not remember the feral child, man.
I want to say that my parents had this, like owned it on VHS, and that's why I've probably seen this one more than other ones. But I think Thunderdome is probably the second for me.
Thunderdome was like on. Like TNT or something.
It was on TNT. That's where
edited, but on TNT just on repeat.
That's where I've seen bits and pieces of it was on TNT just in passing or whatever.
Yeah. So Steven, overall thoughts on The Road Warrior?
I mean, I like it. You know, it has its limitations, and I don't think it tries to sell you that it's anything other than what it is.
No,
which is nice.
Yeah. To its credit, I think. Yeah,
you don't come out of that, you know, wearing a beret and smoking a cigarette in a long stick, right? You know?
No, but ironically, a lot of film critics liked it because it was so pure.
Well, also just because it knows what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's very basic, fairly straightforward plot pieces tied together with some good humor and just a whole bunch of action.
Oh, yeah.
And also just a lot of kind of clever sequences, a lot of it revolving around a feral child.
Well, sure.
What?
Well, the thing that is really interesting is there's honestly some fantastic camera work in this too.
Oh yeah.
That like I said, rough and ready, because they really like get in there, and you can definitely tell just from after watching like Fury Road, you can definitely tell that George Miller's like style is very specific.
Oh yeah.
And he's very deliberate with a lot of his shots.
There's a lot of really good shots in the first Mad Max. Like if you liked Road Warrior, you should probably at some point go back and watch.
I probably will, honestly.
But just know that the Road Warrior is like, again, it's different. It's before the fall. Max has a lot more lines in the first one.
Yeah, he actually talks a lot.
Yeah.
I was going to say, oh boy, you also can see I thought it was interesting, right? And we'll get into it with Fury Road too, because there are some sequences in that where they do the old school 80s and 90s. It's nighttime. They undershoot a little and they put a blue filter on it.
I have trivia for that whenever we.
Right. But they did that. Whereas in The Road Warrior, they're just like, it's just dark. Deal with it.
What should we do? Just shoot it at night.
Put some bonfires around. And
I don't think our film goes up that high. It doesn't matter.
No, you could definitely tell when they like focused it on some of like the fires burners. Like, boy, there's a lot of noise in that.
Oh yeah, you can struggling. The extra grain from just like, I don't know, it's fine.
Just put 1600 in there, let it rip.
Maybe expose it twice. I don't know.
Oh god.
Just as a note, VHS was invented in 1976.
Okay.
So I was close. I thought it was 75, 76, but then like probably by the time people had it in their homes regularly, it was about 1982-ish.
Or even like 85. But still, the cycle, again, to get something to a VHS was long.
Yeah, so I could definitely see like VHS sales being massive.
Through the roof.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Okay, let's go around. Would you recommend it, Steven?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to see the prototypical apocalyptic film, this is definitely one of them.
I'm sure at the time this is probably one of the biggest apocalyptic films that had come out.
I can't think of what else would have
Zardoz
preceded
with
Planet of the Apes was like
Planet
the 60s.
Of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes.
That's like was 70s.
Was it 70s?
But calling it
the first one may have been 69, but it's like it went through the 70s.
Yeah, but calling it it is post-apocalyptic. It just isn't necessarily handled in the same manner. You know what I mean?
No. This is like the greedy, dirty.
Because most post-apocalyptic survivor stories are always end up being man versus man, right?
Yeah.
Which this is, and Planet of the Apes isn't, kind of. Like it is, but it isn't.
68.
68. Okay, so it started Planet of the Apes is late 60s through 70s.
So they basically had there's so many. Oh my gosh,
there's like 6 back in the day.
There's 5. No, there's Seymour. Oh my gosh, there's even more. No, there's just 5.
And then you had the Tim Burton one with Mark Wahlberg in like 01.
Right. Marky Mark, yeah.
And then the Funky Bunch was not there. And then
anyways.
And then you have the new ones.
Which are really good.
Yeah, they are good.
Okay, Andrew, would you recommend it?
Absolutely.
Who would you recommend it to?
Ooh.
Well, you got to caveat that with this movie is R-rated.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
this is an R-rated 80s movie.
There are several moments where, like, in the 80s, they were like, oh, no, he cussed a couple times. They shot a few people. Oh, it's G.
I was a kid and I watched this. My parents were like, this rules for kids. Like, he's fine.
Yeah, definitely go into this understanding that this is emphatically an R film.
Yeah.
And don't have your kids watch it. I mean, unless, you want them
Unless
to, I
you just
guess.
want to
Unless your
warp them
kids
like
are
that.
cool like I was.
You want to teach them what it's like to be a kid in the 80s.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you've seen like Mad Max Fury Road and you enjoyed that film and thoroughly, then absolutely watch it if you've never seen it, because you're going to see a lot of the same pedigree, obviously, that George Miller was kind of honing during this, and you still have some fantastic car stunts
you can really
in there.
see the shots come to fruition in Babe.
I think Happy Feet's where he really got the whole tanker exploding scene down.
These snakes have been trained, and soon so will you. So go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com, where you can check out all of our prior episodes, all of our previous content, as well as links to things like our Discord, socials, and Patreon.
Yeah, so we have a Discord that you can come and join for free. You can just come and hang out with us. We love to talk about what we're eating, what TV shows we're playing or watching, what games
TV shows we're playing.
We're playing everything.
I'm playing Seinfeld.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm Kramer again. And we would also love it if you would follow us on social. We have a Facebook and Instagram. We post a lot of fun stuff over there, and it's the easiest way to see what we're going to be watching coming up. Might just leave that song going.
Yeah, just let it run, man. Let it run.
It's so good.
Get after it, Brian, man. All right. Okay, so now that means we are past the spoiler wall.
We have driven the tanker through.
We
the
have
bus.
exploded through the bus spoiler wall. We are now on the other side. All right, let's get into some trivia real fast here. I already mentioned a couple of these. Let's see. The dog used in the film, simply named Dog, was obtained from a local dog pound right before he was to be put to sleep, and was trained to perform in the film. Because the sound of the engines upset him, and in one incident caused him to relieve himself in the car, he was fitted with special doggy earplugs. After filming was completed, he was adopted by one of the camera operators. Yeah. Let's see here.
This is also definitely a movie where you need to go to the website of Does the Dog Die?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
At least it's off screen.
It is off screen.
Give us in the rest of this movie. I was like, they're gonna show it,
Right? Yeah, I was wondering too. Because I was like, man, everything else is going on. Are we gonna see?
Yeah, there's a lot of like graphic deaths in this.
Oh yeah,
Dude, there's more than that. Like, man.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson only has 16 lines of dialogue in the entire film.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's on par for a Mad Max film.
Really?
Yeah. One of the spectacular stunts in the film, in which one of the motorcycle riders hits a car, flies off his back, and smashes his leg, and goes into the cartwheel.
Yeah.
That was an accident. He was not supposed to do that.
Glad they got it on camera.
Boy, George Mills like, we got that on film, right?
That's
going in.
That was a genuine and near fatal accident. The stuntman was supposed to just fly over the car without hitting it.
So I was actually going to ask, how many people died during this?
None. This was the closest one. So he survived, but his leg was very badly broken. The moment looked so dramatic, though, they kept it in the film.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, if a guy breaks a leg during a stunt and you have it on camera, that is in the film.
If I was the guy that broke the leg, I'd be furious if you cut that out of your film.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I broke my leg for that to get in the film.
You're like watching it at on the release. And you're like, oh yeah, check it out. This is my stunt. You're like, that's a dummy.
No, that he went limp and ragdolled after the insane breakage of his leg.
See, I watched that stunt and I had a moment of like, did they have a dummy on that? Because it doesn't ragdoll quite right. And now it's confirmed. Yeah.
It was a dude.
It was actually a person.
One of the factors that led to them using this specific location to film was the prediction by rainfall charts there would be virtually no rain during the shoot. But it did end up raining during the shoot for the first time in over 4 years. production was shut down for over a week.
It's funny because there's similar trivia in Mad Max Fury Road.
I'm sure there is.
Go figure.
I feel like we've done a few other movies that are done, like Dune or one of them in a desert where it's like, there's no rain, no sweat, guys, no worry about it.
There hasn't been rain for 15 years.
These people don't even remember what rain looks like. And then it's just like monsoon. You're like, come on. The tanker roll stunt at the end of the chase, like at the very last one, was deemed so dangerous that the stunt driver was not allowed to eat any food 12 hours before the shoot in the likely event that he was going to be rushed into surgery.
Wow.
They were like, don't eat because you're going to have to be airlifted like out of this thing, which to me is like
to that.
Wild.
That's insane.
According to George Miller, it was Mel Gibson's idea to make Max look as rough and ragged as he did. So before filming began, he cut his own hair and eyebrows and cut the sleeve off of his leather jacket and tore up his gloves. So he showed up the first day just like looking
ripped up.
They're like, you all right, Mel?
He doesn't say anything for the rest of the shoot.
James Cameron, friend of the show, Jimmy Cams, cited this as one of his big influences behind The Terminator, and in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, John Connor's dog's name was actually Max. Like an homage back in this. And I think you can see that in that one scene in T2 where the transfer truck is like chasing the dirt bike. There's some DNA there. Yeah. Let's see. Although it might not look at this location was actually extremely cold. Like I got hot watching this movie.
Deserts are cold.
Yeah, so Mel Gibson would spend most of his time between takes huddled under several blankets, despite being in a leather outfit.
Man, the poor people were riding around in assless shit.
While the Marauders suffered in particular with their costumes, which deliberately exposed their buttocks.
poor Humongous is over there just freezing.
Oh yeah, I know. Man, he's having the worst day.
Yeah. According to cinematographer Dean Semler, the camera rig used to get the medium close-ups of Max while he's driving required him and an assistant cameraman to stand on a small platform. So Dean and the assistant are both on this platform, just mounted to a car.
Just outside the car?
Yeah. They found out during one sequence that they had miscalculated the lift because whenever they went up or down a hill, the platform would scrape the ground, sending showers of sparks over the men.
Oh, heck yeah.
Initially alarming everyone involved, but they just shrugged and kept shooting.
Classic.
See, this
George
is
Miller's
like
over here like, filming
about.
cheap, boys, keep going.
That's that Australian energy I needed from this movie, and that's the Jackie Chan-esque, like...
Yeah.
It really is.
Like the first time they go over a rise and there's just sparks shooting, they did not cut. George Miller's like, roll.
Just keep it going.
I hope we got those sparks.
I already said this, the set was the most expensive and they blew it up. Judge Miller said that the character of the gyro captain was written in part so that the studio would have to pay for a helicopter for the shoot because all of the aerial shots were quite expensive, but they were necessary to show the point of view of the captain in his gyrocopter.
Yeah, and also if they need to airlift the stunt dude out there,
we already got the chopper on standby.
Well, so it's funny too because that's basically just the that's kind of like a malicious compliance hack.
Yeah.
He has. He's like, okay, well, if they don't want to pay for it, I'm just going to write in a character where they have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's essential that you see the gyrocopter's POV.
It honestly makes a big difference.
It really does. Also, it adds a lot to the scenes because it gives you an excuse for why do we have a high angle of view? Oh, we're with the gyrocopter.
Yeah, we're with the...
Like, there's so many shots that, like, if they didn't have a chopper for this movie, it would be. It's just all on the ground.
Yeah. Well, you'd also lose the scale of the chase at the end when you have all the bandits stretched out across the road and in the dirt, kicking up all the dirt. Like, you lose all that perspective.
Well, even just from like logistics perspectives, that's really interesting. But then even a plot perspective, it definitely gives them the edge of having, essentially like air power, even if it's only one guy. Like, he does make a difference in just the overwhelming numbers that they're against.
And then he absolutely beefs it, but it's okay. He's totally fine.
Oh yeah, totally fine in a gyrocopter.
Back when men were men.
He went like all in too. Like,
also, I don't know if you noticed it, but like his teeth are terrible.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Until he meets the girl at the location, and then the next time he's on screen, they're clean.
Oh, really?
And I was like, is that a continuity error? But then if you look the rest of the movie, his teeth are clean. So I think
cleaned up for the girl.
He just went to the bathroom on the bus or wherever and cleaned him up. And that's supposed to be like a
good guy gyrocopter,
an indicator of like
he's turning around his bad ways.
Yeah. But if for the first time he came on screen and he had pearly whites, I was like, okay, hold on. I feel like that's a continuity thing. But then he continued. Okay, so what are some of your favorite scenes?
Oh man!
Oh boy! So we have a lot of
the thing the thing I like about, and this is kind of just both Mad Max films now that I've seen, the actual like bad guys, like the leader people,
Yeah.
like they're visually unique, but they're really not like that great at what they do.
No.
Where like dude just gets run over, like just gets head on collisioned with another car.
Yeah.
And that's it.
The humongous.
He just happens to be
his car
big,
is also just like a modified John Deere tractor. You know, like the
That's
worst
not
car.
But I love the moment whenever, and this is like, it's definitely like the main character syndrome that some of these bad guys have.
Yeah.
Is that like he has his own special case with his revolver
gun.
and he
yeah.
puts the one bullet in there, and he's like, okay, this guy is a pretty decent shot at least.
Yeah.
And then he does it again at the end of the film and just gets completely waxed, and it's
Just
just
completely.
like, yeah, it's just like, this is like, I'm here for this.
Right, yeah.
For the hubris that this guy has.
I also like that, like Papagallo, the kind of de facto leader.
The most
Yeah,
useless leader.
Yeah. Just straight up beefs it and dies immediately. And that, like,
He
comes
has one of the coolest cars.
Oh yeah, he comes in this car and you're like, oh cool, what's gonna happen? Dead.
Dead.
And you're like, oh, because this movie isn't afraid to just randomly kill people.
people. Yeah.
Well, because that's what would happen in these kind of situations.
Well, they also lose the bikini model warrior girl.
Oh,
who just-
yeah.
she just slips,
yeah.
dies,
and just dies.
Yeah, because like she's like, you think like, okay, she's got the headband
She
on.
could be like
she's like the only
the love
attractive
interest.
person in
This is
this
the
whole
love
thing.
interest for Mad Max here,
Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah,
and they just
nope.
take her out immediately. Yeah, she just falls off the side.
And then the other putz on the other end of the trailer sets himself on fire.
Oh yeah, that's a funny sequence though, where he's like trying to pat
He's
himself
like, I'm
out.
fine,
He's
I'm
like,
fine,
"So
I'm fine."
it's fine.
There's a lot of random humor. Like, I mean, in the middle of the sequence where the oil rig scouts are getting like run down by the bandits and murdered and having other horrible things
Yes,
done to them.
yeah.
You have the little bit of random humor of Mel Gibson looking through the binoculars, and Gyrocopter dude opens up the monster spyglass.
Oh yeah, and it's over the
And
top of
he
him.
like looks up at it and like that's mine.
Yeah. I think moments like that too say so much about the dynamic between those two guys without having to like spell it out.
Their
Yeah.
interpersonal chemistry is pretty much great from the start.
Yeah.
Basically because your initial introduction to Gyrocopter Man is this dude's just nuts.
Well, and
Yeah.
I love too obviously he's just bluffing because he doesn't have a loaded shotgun that
Right,
works.
yeah.
And then he's like, it wasn't loaded?
Yeah.
Oh, that's where's your honor? Or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he says
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's just that kind of interaction of where Max is willing to go to just make
Yeah.
sure that he has at least some level of agency in whatever situation he's in. And it's fine too, because like you would think because he's like the hero,
Right.
He's good at what he does. He's actually really bad at basically everything.
I mean, he's like, I fulfilled my contract. I'm leaving. Immediately gets run down and wrecked.
Yeah,
dude.
It's like go the other way. Don't go out this way of the compound. Go the way where there's no
like,
one
where
at.
you go?
Right? Like, it's just not that difficult.
I do. One of the funniest moments for me is always when he first captures the gyro and it cuts to the inside of the car and the dog has the bone
Oh,
that's
yeah.
attached to the shotgun,
the trigger.
and he's just eyeing the guy, and the guy's looking at the dog, and the rabbit runs outside, and the dog looks at it, and the guy looks at it, and the dog looks back at him, and he's like,
Oh, good boy. Good
and I was
boy.
like, wow, that was to me. I was like, that was a great use of
Of course,
a
at
dog.
the time you
in
don't
film.
know the gun isn't loaded, but it's a
Right, yeah.
hilarious sequence.
But just the dog looks at the rabbit, the guy looks at the rabbit, the dog looks back at him, and you're like, what is happening? This dog's about to lose it. Yeah. I think too that like the action, the way it unfolds shows George Miller's creativity. Where like they've got that one like rear like cockpit thing on the tanker, and the grapple hook catches the dude's leg and pins him to the side
Yeah.
of it, and then eventually it gets
It
pulled
just rips
off,
the
and
whole
it's
thing
like.
off.
Like just that sequence it could have been like in someone less creative, it would just been like the grapple hook pulls the thing off and the guy dies. Instead, it's like it's got to hook his leg. He's pinned for a while. They're trying to get him out.
It's got a moment of like, can he get free? Like,
Right.
this is so unfortunate, but like maybe this isn't. No. This is all downhill.
And those kind of moments are spread throughout that whole final chase.
Because it really feels like he thinks of the consequences of the things that are happening to the characters.
Right.
Because you even have like little mini character arcs in these moments.
Yeah.
Of just like, yeah, he's like trying to like, okay, I can get myself out of this, that kind of stuff. And then like, it's like, oh no, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no surviving this now.
And even like when Wes, when he gets into the compound and he's like running amok inside there,
Yeah.
and then he just makes his escape, like it feels very chaotic, and like there's things that are unfolding that aren't like point A to point B.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves. He just gets out.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that dude's got some A-tier facial expressions.
Oh yeah,
like
dude. Vernon Wells, what an actor. He also played.
I love his little wrist crossbow that he has.
Yeah. I will say, the one dude who runs up beside the tanker, like, shoot the tires. Like, oh yeah, I got my wrist crossed, but he just sticks his hand in there.
Oh yeah, and he just
gets destroyed. Come on, man.
It's like, what are you doing?
Humongous is in the back, like, oh, the people I work with.
I know. The Humongous has like multiple moments like that, and then there's the one guy that catches the boomerang. I got it. Fingers are gone.
So
everybody's laughing. He's like, they like me. They really like me.
So I gotta say, Wes.
W-E-Z.
Wes's character, like, so he has the beef with Gibson at the start because he pulls the trick where they accidentally shoot each other through the car, right? And he carries his beef throughout, even after Feral Child just executes his presumed friend, lover. I don't know.
It's played as like a lover,
right?
But in some of the trivia that I didn't include, because there was a ton of trivia,
of course.
It was in the script originally. That was like his son, so he rescued this kid as like a boy.
Oh, gotcha. And he's his ward.
But in the movie, the way it's played out is almost like homoerotic.
Yeah.
A little like, is this his boyfriend?
Either way, whether it's his lover, son, or friend, Feral Child straight kills that dude. Wes is just like, Mad Max did this. It's like, really? You're not like trying to just run this kid. Like when you're in the compound, you shouldn't be like, where's Max? You should be like, where's the little child?
Where's that little kid? Yeah.
It's funny too, because like whenever that happens and like Max is just sitting there with his just like chained up there. He's like, what did I do?
I didn't do anything. I literally handcuffed to it. While this Feral Child is over here doing backflips into a hole like deuces.
Just backflips. I was like, wow.
Oh man.
Yeah, that kid was wild.
I love the Feral Child.
Yeah.
That was perfect casting. That kid looks absolutely like every feral child you have seen running through an amusement park.
So how did you feel about the Feral Child ended up being the narrator?
I liked it.
I thought that was a good I thought that was a good twist.
Yeah.
Well, especially as it being like the Road Warrior is a legendary figure. Well, who out of this group is going to really look at him as a legendary figure? For all the adults, he was like...
He was just some dude.
He was a problem. He left them in their time of need.
Yeah.
For this small feral child, right? This dude gave him the music box that plays it.
Gave him candy or something, didn't he?
Something, yeah. And like helped him basically get free, and he like fought beside him on the tanker chase. Like, this is the legendary figure for the future leader of the North Tribe, or whatever they call themselves.
Yeah. So I liked that detail, and it's one that I always forget every rewatch. Well, because I usually put like 5-10 years between rewatches, you know. And so I'm like, oh yeah, the kid's the narrator. I forgot about that. Because like you said, it makes perfect sense from his point of view that would be
like he's like this
figure.
deified.
Yeah. Okay, are there any plot beats we need to discuss?
I don't think so.
In the limited plot.
I mean, there's just not a whole lot. I do like the bit where like some of the people in the compound are like, we could negotiate with him like the next day. So anyways, he strung these people out and set them on fire. Totally negotiable. Yeah, definitely.
Right,
Definitely can
Seems
negotiate.
pretty level-headed to me.
Well, I mean, I was going
about-
to say, I did like the bait and switch. At the end with the tanker just being filled with sand.
Oh, it's just full of sand. Yeah. But I also love the fact that it looks like Max was not in on that fact.
No, not at all.
He's like looking at the dirt and he's like,
this?
What did I do?
I thought I was stealing 8,000 gallons of
I would
gasoline.
have never agreed to this. Yeah. And then they just made off with all the fuel on the other side.
I do like the bit where he's like, I passed a rig that could tow this, 2 days ago. If you give me 5 gallons of diesel, I'll go get it. It's like, okay, so Humongous gave you a 24-hour time limit. This dude passed that 2 days ago in a car, and he's going on foot with 5 gallons of diesel that's going to get it like
Well, they use the
miles?
gyrocopter, don't they?
Yes.
I think that's when they use the copter.
They do. They get to the copter to fly
the copter
to it.
was much closer.
Yeah. Right, yeah. It's just really funny where it's just like, he told you it was 2 days ago. You did 2 days away. You didn't give him a car? I'm so confused. Because the only reason he gets to use the gyrocopter is because he runs across the captain on the way.
He couldn't get in a car because
you couldn't guarantee the car would go out. Yeah. It's just funny where it's just like, this is really, guys, this is your plan?
I do like the moment whenever he again, Max is really not good at what he does at sneaking. He just drops the barrels, and then Wes comes over, and then the feral
child's
kid
there to bail
fixes
him out.
it. Yeah.
I think that's a different dude than Wes. I think that's like a
No, it's Wes.
No, it's Wes.
Is it Wes?
Definitely Wes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a different guy because he didn't have the face paint, but all right.
Well, he doesn't have the face paint until later in the film. Like until like the final big battle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
yeah, like the movie itself, I thought the performances were really good for most part, like for most people.
Yeah.
They are what they are.
I think for as limited as the dialogue is,
right? Yeah,
the character interactions still feel very real.
They do. The Humongous is the only one who's like absolutely cartoonish.
He's just a comic book character.
Yeah, but
he's a video game boss. He really is.
Kind of makes
not the final boss.
Yeah.
No, but it makes it special too. I think to have the Humongous be as like, we will give you 24 hours,
larger than life.
Yeah,
both literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
he's pretty big.
He's like an Olympic power lifter or something, I think.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the music?
Oh, so it was definitely one of those where,
great.
the main theme was phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I remember whenever we were watching it, and like I never really expect too much out of, I'll say, like a lower budget 80s film.
Yeah,
for like musical scores.
You kidding me? That's
one of the
that's when they drop it. So it goes one of two ways, right? Either the music is terrible or like horribly trapped in the 80s, or it's just the most banger track you've ever heard in your life.
This one, like when they play it during like the big chase at the end, I'm like, this is incredible.
Oh yeah,
like it's got like the big horns in there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a couple of moments where like the music just cuts out during some of the chases that I feel like it could have
been a little bit better.
Put something there, but like it's offset by, like you're saying, the moments where like the chase starts and like the music's just ramping up and things are crazy. What did you think about the fast forwarding film effects on some of the shots?
Well, I mean, it's necessary for a couple of the stunts.
Yeah, well, and so that wasn't present, I believe, in the first Mad Max. There was a couple of scenes where they like sped it up because they had to, right? And then, as we'll see when we get to like Fury Road, he just continues that style.
It's just rife with that style.
Yeah.
It's like now it's not a requirement. It's like a stylistic. I want to make a George Miller movie, so I'm going to speed up my you know.
Well, and it is very stylistic. And the other thing that I noticed too, which was a really great use of it, was where basically they were playing the film on top of each other, but it was offset.
Oh, so when he's like
after he gets in the wreck.
Yeah.
And he's like crawling out and he's dazed.
Trying to show the dazed effect or whatever.
Yeah. It was probably one of the best uses of that I've seen, especially from an older film, to where it wasn't a like over the top, where you kind of have like where it's like
too much.
I'm woozy,
too swimmy. Yeah,
it was just enough to jitter to where it felt like, wow, this guy's like really like rocked out right now.
So I also did like, speaking of plot points, I liked that the booby trap on his car came back to be a factor and essentially saves his life because it makes him think, okay, well, he was in the explosion too, and now there's nothing here for us. Let's leave.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense whenever, like the bad guy like sees the hero and they're like, I'll let my lackey kill him, and then they just walk away, which is the dumbest thing ever.
Right.
But then whenever you have like a reasonable, it's like, oh, well, he was clearly in the explosion there. There's no reason for me to.
I'm not gonna.
And also, like,
that's a steep hill.
All the gas I was gonna get's gone. Like, what else is there for me? The cool car's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. The poor Interceptor.
That might be the last Interceptor ever.
Yes, kaboosh. All right. So, would you rewatch it, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Me too, obviously.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even, if someone was like, hey, I want to watch Road Warrior, I've never seen it, like, yeah, let's throw it on right now.
Let's do it.
Beers.
Yeah. Steven, would you rewatch it?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I've seen this film probably a handful of times at this point. It has been quite some time since my last viewing.
Yeah, I need to watch it more often. It's been probably at least a decade for me, I would say. I think I watched it in preparation. No, I watched it way before Fury Road first came out. So it was probably,
that has been 10 years.
Yeah.
Ish. Well, 9, but
9-ish. But yeah, so it was at least before that. So at least 10 years.
But I mean, it's just a fun film.
Well, it's I'm going to push back on that a little bit. There are a lot of fun moments in the film. It's a good action film, but there are also several moments that really deal with the harshness of post-apocalyptic society that are not fun at all.
Well, I mean,
they're not supposed to be.
And they're not supposed. They don't.
They
do make light of one bit when the tent gets ripped away.
Which part?
It's the bandit camp, and the tent gets blown off them, and it's two bandits going at it.
Oh yeah.
So they make fun, but there are moments earlier in the film that are just like pure
unfortunate reality
of reality of the scenario and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it probably builds off of a lot of the stuff that happened in the first Mad Max of like street gangs who are just like wild. They have no regard for human
they
life.
show you in the start of the second movie, his wife and kid get just run down,
mowed down
on vacation.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's kind of like, so you have like obviously the first two films, which are, I'll say, a little bit more serious than something like Fury Road, which is, it's popcorn entertainment, but then you have, it's much more stylistic in its own world.
Right. Yeah.
To where like you have like, it's, I don't know, like, the street gangs or like the bandits in this are not like fanatic like road warriors like they are in Fury Road.
Right.
War boys.
Yeah, like these guys are they're just thugs. And they just happen to have a style of wearing leather pants.
Small time, like, petty criminals.
Yeah. It's not like this.
There was a tanker full of assless chaps that got knocked over, and they were like,
"Hey,
we all have pants now.
We all have uniforms.
Yes. We can look like we belong together."
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about our Patreon real quick.
Sure. For just $1 a month, you get access to all of our bonus content. That includes bonus episodes, commentaries, Patreon picks, polls. But we have great bonus episodes. We love to do all sorts of fun stuff, like have ChatGPT give us relationship ideas,
Questions.
and then we give it terrible advice. We also fight presidents and monarchs and all sorts of other fun stuff, like tier lists.
We enter the wasteland that is sampling all kinds of flavors of chips, sodas, candy.
We destroy our mouths and our stomachs at the same time.
Man.
Oh, I got like a stomachache just thinking about some of
That Buffalo Rock ginger ale's calling your name.
Oh, it's so spicy. All right, well, that sounds about like all the time we have. So as always, follow us on social, leave us a review wherever you're listening now, and share us with a friend. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.